I'm going to be doing this remote. I'm outside my daughter's house, and I don't have the agenda in front of me. I know there's 3 grants, and then there's the discussion on the Tapley Street thing. But does anybody have the agenda in front of them so they could call the first item?
Okay, the first item is the order number 7585, Springfield Safe Ride Home Project, 191,000. No match.
No match. Yep. Good. All right. That's on the table. Item number
We've just been joined by Councilor Gauvain.
1. Anybody have any comment on that? Anybody here to speak on it?
I'm here, Counselor, to speak on the Safe Ride Home grant. It is a research grant that was given to us by the Mass Public Health Council. The purpose is to try to connect some research around driving under the influence, or OUI, alcohol, and individuals who are stopped potentially leaving the casino. So the research really is around the impact that alcohol and gambling could potentially have on drivers as they go home. It will include our partners in this grant, I believe, is New North Citizens Council, the Mass Gaming Commission, as well as MGM, one more. So that's the purpose of the grant. It will hire 2 outreach workers also to do education on problem gambling.
Okay. Thank you.
You're breaking up a bit, Counselor.
I just said, is there where I am is not great service, so I'll speak a little louder. Is there evidence that this is a problem besides just that we know normally that alcohol is a problem for driving? Is there more evidence?
That's the purpose of the grant. The grant is to really look at the data that has been compiled by AAA and other entities around driving under the influence and causes. So is there a lot of data out there on this? No. And I think that's why we were granted the funding.
Okay, great. That's good. So I see we got a few people on. Councilor Bruce, Councilor Perez, Attorney Moore, Kira. Anybody have any comments on this grant?
Councilor Walsh has her hand up.
Also,
yes.
Thank you. All right, go ahead. Yeah, Councilor Walsh.
And Councilor Gauvain is also here in City Hall with me.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was very interested to what this actually means, this grant. Does it mean people will be giving rides home? Is that what this means? Or
it means, yeah, it means that MGM could potentially change the way in which it interviews or works with individuals who are gambling. So we don't have the data right now. So this is, again, the reason to do this, so that we can put intervention and prevention strategies in place for those who might be impacted.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
If I might, Councilor Allen.
So the money would go to your organization, Helen, and the 2 positions would be hired by your organization?
We could potentially subcontract. I believe we are going to subcontract an outreach worker to New North Citizens Council, keeping in mind we want to be very mindful about language barriers, and also want to keep in mind the fact that we need to work with our youth as well.
Okay. Sounds good. Sounds like you got a good handle on it. Good explanation. Any questions from anyone else?
Councilor Allen, I just wanted to ask, and probably this is very preliminary, Commissioner, but what is it going to look like? So the coordinator they'll be doing some outreach to people at MGM who have been using, or you probably don't know yet. I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I think it's a very valid question. We have been working with MGM. So you know that we have a position in the department that is the coordinator of problem gambling. So we have an individual who is already on staff who works with the community around problem gambling. We have worked with MGM. So we will be working with MGM. We'll be working with the local police department as well as state police. So while I don't have obviously the data, I'm real clear about the partnerships and the purpose.
Okay, thank you very much. I really look forward to hearing what the data says at the end. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Councilor Allen.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Govan. Kira is here. I talked to TJ today, and he said Kira would be covering for the finance department. Kira, did you have anything you want to add to this or anything?
Not really. I think Commissioner Carlton Harris pretty much covered all of it. It is no match, so that's pretty much the finance side of it, how it'll impact our finance department as well.
Okay, thank you. There's no further comment. Any further comment? I guess better way of saying it. Councilor Davila has joined in. No further comments. So why don't we move on to item 2? Catering, could you read item 2? I'm just in a situation
Sure.
where I...
It's number 7584, Springfield Young Adult Gambling Project. And is this different than the ride home?
It is. It's a separate grant that is specifically working with youth in our community around problem gambling. What we know is that oftentimes youth get involved with gambling through sometimes video games, through sometimes scratch tickets. And so what we want to do is we will have a group of young people that we will stipend, and they will meet and advise around problem gambling and youth, and give us some ideas of how we can intervene with the youth in the city of Springfield as far as problem gambling is concerned.
You'll be working with another organization to do that, like New North or someplace else?
Yes, we will be working with New North, Martin Luther King Family Services, and the South End Community Center.
Okay. Sounds good. Any questions on to the commissioner? Not seeing anybody with any questions. Okay, that sounds good. Helen, thank you for that. Let's move on to the next grant. Catering, if you could read that one, please.
Cyber's going to do it.
I'll read it for her, Councilor Allen. So the next one is order ID number 7581. It's a mass call 3 grant, no match required, $500,000.
Ooh.
So this grant, the City of Springfield Department of Health and Human Services is the lead city for this grant. Our 2 other cities are Chicopee and Holyoke. The purpose of this grant is to work with the public school systems in those 3 towns through their public health departments to, again, talk about substance use disorders amongst young people. So that's the purpose of the grant. I believe we've had this grant now, I want to say, for about 5 years. So this is not a new partnership. We've had the partnership and we'll continue to work to try and decrease substance use disorders, particularly in youth, in our schools, and educate them on the dangers of substances.
All right, that sounds good. Certainly that problem is pervasive in society, so that's good. This grant that we've had before, is this an increase on it, or does it have any other pieces to it, or is it just, refunding it again?
Yeah, it is. It is a new grant cycle, so it is being refunded for us. The other parts to it, we hire community health workers who will work in those cities and as well. it's really important for us, again, to make sure that we are looking at issues related to parents, also keeping in mind language and those things that cause barriers or could trigger youth to use substances.
Okay. Comments from anybody? Questions from anybody?
If I may, Councilor Allen?
Yeah, go right ahead.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner, on that. Since you guys have had this grant for, I guess, a while now, do you guys have any data on how successful it is and how it's impacting our youth?
Well, what we look at as indicators are certainly graduation rates. We look at absenteeism. We look at some of those indicators that might speak to the program having good outcomes, and there are others. And so we also send to DPH every month a report on the work that we're doing, so they're able to capture our information and our data. So yes, I mean, I think the indicators are really keeping kids in school, keeping them off substance. If you look at the data around substance use disorders within the schools and absenteeism, you can see that all three schools are really doing a much better job in keeping young people in school. And we believe that these kinds of interventions are helpful.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, Councilor Allen.
Great. Thank you. Thanks, Councilor Govan. I finally have this agenda up on my phone here. Any other questions on the third grant, the Mass Call 3 grant? I'm not seeing any. So we'll call that one all set for now. Kiara, did you have anything special on that one or anything?
No, once again, just no match required. So it doesn't cost the city pretty much anything for that side.
All right, great. Thank you. And then the fourth thing was, items 4 and 5 were related to the Tapley Street item. And I can take this one. There was a taking on our agenda for tonight. I've been involved in this item all day long, and it's what we thought was going to happen tonight is different. We have Counselor Tom Moore, or Attorney Tom Moore, on here. We've made some progress today on this item before getting to the council meeting tonight. Tom, did you want to say anything on it?
Thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Counselors, for having me at the committee. That's correct, Counselor. The item was originally scheduled for an appropriation order for the funding and an order of taking for the eminent domain taking of a portion of, not the entire parcel, but a portion of the property at 90-120 Tapley Street. That item we're looking to have that continued. At this point, we're trying to complete successfully the negotiations on a new lease for the property. The city's Department of Public Works has had a lease at that property for at least the last quarter century. It's directly next to our municipal operations center at 70 Tapley Street. So it is critical for operations for the city. We had a longstanding lease in place. There's new ownership of the property that we've been negotiating a new lease with. The lease term is set to expire at the end of September. We secured an extension to that to try to negotiate a new lease and to avoid the need to do an eminent domain taking. It's always the city's policy. If we can negotiate, it's always better than doing a taking. So that's really the two items, reason for being continued is that we're looking to complete our negotiations.
Great. Thank you, Tom. So there'll be a motion at the council meeting tonight to continue. I'll make the motion, and Tom will be on and he can speak to it for the whole council or whatever's needed. But does anybody have any questions now about it?
I do, Counselor Allen.
Okay.
Okay. I'm always curious when we have an eminent domain, what the reaction is of the people who are involved in the taking. Is there pushback?
Is there what?
Counselor, yeah, there's almost uniformly a pushback when you do an eminent domain. It's very, very rare when a person's excited when the government's coming in to take the property, or in this case, not the whole thing, but a portion of it. So yeah, I wouldn't say there's pushback. I would say that we've been for quite a period of time trying to negotiate a new lease, and that both sides have been really working hard to get that done. And really the question is that, we're running up against a bit of a deadline. And in the city's case, we really can't afford to let the lease expire and not have the place secure. So that's why the eminent domain is something that's put on the table. But that being said, I think there's a very strong possibility we end up with a settled agreement.
So if there's a lease, you don't need the eminent domain?
There would be no eminent domain if we negotiate a new lease for the portion that's being used currently, correct?
Well, good luck. I hope you can do that.
Thank you.
Well, we made some good progress. I happen to be involved in this over the course of the day, and Tom and other people made some great progress today to get us to this point. It looked like it was potentially going to be contentious tonight, but we're in a better place now. So that'll get discussed at the council meeting. But the information Tom just gave you is pretty much the summary of it. So we can avoid the taking if we can get this lease done in the next 4 weeks. So.
And I would like to say that with my dealings with Attorney Tom Moore, we are in good hands with him being involved in this project.
Agreed.
Right. Yep. That's great. Nice compliment for Tom. I agree. That's it for the agenda.
Mr. Davila has his hand up.
Yeah,
I'm
thank
sorry.
you.
Go right ahead. I'm not very good at noticing the hand here. So.
Thank you, Chairman. Tom, quick question for you. Let me see how I can formulate my question just so that you can answer it if you can in a public setting. So this eminent domain that we are possibly looking at, what's the driving factor behind this? Is this a failure or the inability to reach a financial agreement, or is there any other reason for the pushback?
Oh, you mean so I think I interpret the question to say what has been the sticking point in negotiations for a new lease? Is that sort of what we're asking, Counselor?
Particularly financially, yeah.
Yeah, so a component is financial, but I would say that that's not really the primary driving force for I think why we haven't quite gotten to the finish line yet. I think that relates very much to a changed configuration of the site plan of the leased premises and whether or not it works for the operations of the DPW, because they have the vehicles that are going in and doing certain turning radiuses, and they have a scale that's located in the property. So there's a really careful consideration in engineering of how they line up the trucks and how it's going to work. So we've gone through quite a few iterations of site plan layouts, and we're hoping that this one, the most recent one, is one we can agree on. And if that's true, then I think we'll be ready to have a lease agreement ready.
Right, and so if we're going to take the eminent domain, it will be fair market value, correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Council. We're required to do certain valuations, as you guys see from time to time in the council. When we establish a value, we're not allowed to pay less than a certain amount, and if we go over a certain amount, there's things that have to take place. But yeah, in this case, it would be an appraised value for the property. We did an appraisal and a review appraisal that established the value, and that's the one we would ultimately use if we needed to do an eminent domain. And again, that's something I think we're trying to avoid at this point for sure.
Just to summarize, this is critical for the operations of DPW, thus impacting the residents of the city of Springfield if it's not signed.
Yeah, it's a critical site, Councilor. You said it right. It's a critical site. It's something that the city absolutely needs to have. And we've had it for a very long time as a long-term lease. The long-term owners of the property deceased fairly recently. The heir who took on the property as the successor owner in the family decided they were going to just sell the property, and then it went onto the market. And so that's sort of why we're in this posture now. But in the end, it's not insurmountable. These are very solvable problems, and it's a good thing that we're still at the table negotiating. I think we can get it done.
Well, I agree. I think in amicable resolutions, I was better rather than us doing an eminent domain, and you leading this charge, Attorney Moore. I'm sure that we are going to come on triumphant on this. Oh, thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Councilor Walsh, as well. Thank you for the kind words.
Excellent. Ditto on the kind words from Councilor Walsh, and good questions, Councilor Davila. So I think we're close to being done here. Does anybody have any further questions on the items 4 or 5?
Nope, I just wanted to echo this Councilor Whitfield. I don't know if you know I was here, Councilor Allen, but I just wanted to echo.
Thank you.
All councilors said about Attorney Moore. just a stand-up, great gentleman, attorney, and love working with you. Definitely have trust and faith in you, Attorney Moore.
Thank you, Councilor Whitfield.
Thank you. Okay, thanks, Councilor Whitfield. I had seen you come on at the end. I should have announced you, so I'm sorry. All right. From my point of view, we are done with this meeting. Thanks, Councilor Attorney Moore, for being on there, because I could have said what you said based on what I learned today, but you said it a lot better, and you've been involved in it a lot deeper than I have. So appreciate it. Any last questions? Would Councilor Govan or Councilor Whitfield, who are both members of the Finance Committee, would either of you like to make a motion to accept the Finance Committee items, the 5 items tonight?
So moved.
So moved. Thank you.
Yes,
I will vote yes. And was the motion made by Councilor Govan?
yes, sir.
Yeah. Councilor Whitfield, you have a vote on it as well?
I missed some of them, so I don't want to vote on what I didn't hear, so I'm just gonna abstain.
Okay, fair enough. No, that's fair enough. They were just grants, but I understand. That's all right. So the motion will go forward in support from the Finance Committee for two members. With that, I'd say we're done, and until 7 o'clock, or proclamations at 6:30.
Oh, 6:30.
Yeah, proclamations tonight.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, councilors.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Right, Tom, you know I feel the same way.
Thank you, councilor.
Take care. Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Thank you.